Okay. Notes, Samsung Notes. Let's see. It's loading. Okay. No search. Search function is not working. What's happening? Oh dear. Look at that. I hit record and everything, and then the program froze. So, let's give it a second. Oh gosh. All right, let's try again. Wow, this program is really slow. All right. Probably should have loaded it up before hitting record, but too bad. Oh, so before you sit and watch all of this, especially since there's so much dead space, this is going to be fairly depressing, probably. So if you're not into that, don't watch it. I'm talking about soul slavery. If I can get this lovely, apparently very old program to open. Look at that. I almost took the Lord's name in vain. Let's try again. Third time's a charm. The next video I may or may not make will probably be a lot more interesting, and well, not interesting only to the people whose salience landscapers find it interesting. There's a small subset of people, but it'll be a lot more positive than this one, if this one ever happens, because my goodness, this program will not load. Let me pause recording and wait. Okay, we're back. So this is this is going to be a mess, isn't it? So, slavery of the soul. This notes program is terrible. I don't have a date. I would like some context. Okay, so August 12th, 2021. Okay, so it was actually maybe a little outdated insofar as that's when I wrote it. So it's a long time ago. Not in the mood today. Okay. So if somebody not from around here made the observation that there was a learning loop in the online social spaces, which was repeat what I tell you, tell someone else, have them repeat it back to you, and now I tell you, you are educated. Repeat what I tell you, tell someone else, have them repeat it back to you, now I tell you you're educated. Okay. This is not going to make, this may not make any sense to anyone. That's fine. So my thoughts on the learning loop. Learning loop is a very generous term. It's not true learning. So it's a, like this is how people parrot information. It's a strongly reinforced learning pattern or addiction because one receives a dopamine hit every step of the loop. We're talking about online usage, okay? It appears to me like an ego-driven addiction, likely due to an erosion or lack of self-worth or conviction elsewhere, trying to stuff human interaction into social media algorithms, which are fundamentally retarded methods of communication. I mean, retarded in very literal sense. Likely prime this and to then extend offline in human communication on a global scale. So essentially you have like regular human communication, and then you have this like online space. Then you start having these learning or addictive learning. Learning, again, it's like I'm not talking about learning in the sense of like true learning. I'm talking about, anyway, see these like patterns, learning patterns online, and then people take those and then bring them back into the meat space. So healthy communication or regular dysfunctional, decent communication. Then you have this learning loop of repeating something you hear, telling someone else the thing, have them repeat it back to you, and now we're all educated. Again, I'm using the word educated in a very snarky sense, okay? Because any of that information is garbage, right? So trying to stuff human algorithm into social media, human interaction to social media algorithms, which are fundamentally retarded methods of communication. Again, so Neil Postman would say the medium is the message. You can only fit certain amounts of words into a tweet. In some cases, this works very well, but essentially, your message is only gonna, the medium is the message, okay? Why am I explaining things today? Today is not the day to explain things. Once the mind adjusts to this process, which has been carefully, deliberately, and lovingly constructed by social scientists, the mind becomes like a horse with blinders. Human minds become something like hosts for the messages they are fed, and their addiction propels them into that circle thing that a horse walks around to create energy. Yeah, I still don't know what that's called. There's a donkeys or horses. They're like, okay. So again, once human minds become something like, yeah, I read that part. I will also point out these people are suffering greatly. This is a very significant point that I think is sometimes overlooked because we want to blame, I say we as in like humans often want to blame dysfunctional behavior as wrongdoing, right? So yeah, that the person who is not functioning well is certainly not having a good time. That's what I'm trying to say here. And probably like if they could magically be functioning well, i.e. coherently, in coherence with themselves and their surroundings, yeah, that would, most people would take that bet. Like given a button. Okay, now we're getting personal. Years ago, I turned down a simple app project which contained pages of documents and a proposal with the methods to be utilized in order to create the strongest possible addiction, to extract the most time, attention, and money physically possible. This is standard practice. Yeah, the design of that particular app was to create an addiction, a time, attention, and money addiction. I think the time and attention is important to be aware of. Okay, so that's my experience and perspective as of August 2021. So let's pull out the points that someone else found the most salient, which was, it appears to me like an ego-driven addiction, likely due to an erosion or lack of self-worth or conviction elsewhere. I will also point out these people are suffering greatly. At the highest level, it is the slavery of the soul. Okay. Here's some interesting words from a conversation partner about this. My hope, he says, my hope is that this invisible ailment becomes visible and demystified to us as a species, thus we may free ourselves and our fellow man who may not be able to pull themselves out alone. Although the cause is invisible to many, ironically, its highly visible effects on all strata, of which are very confusing and destructive. This is a massive understatement, I think. As I think we can all see in some form or another, it is great danger and creates a perpetual and compounding cycle of suffering. Thank you for enabling me to work on my thoughts and observations publicly. I really appreciate that. Okay, that's very nice. An ego-filled addiction to slavery of the soul propagated by greed. That's an accusation. An ego-driven AI death cult. Okay. So, wow. I don't think this needed to be 11 minutes long. As far as, okay, so as far as that learning loop I was talking about, that was August 2021. So things have changed, things have shifted. I think more adults that I talk to seem to realize that they are what's the word? Not like battling with addiction, but more so that like it's become salient to them that like addiction is like ready to like grab its claws in them if they don't actively like resist it. Yeah. Usually some like a smartphone or online sort of thing, right? So I do know a number of people who've gotten rid of their smartphones this year. Yeah, I mean, look, the repeat what I tell you, tell someone else, have them repeat it back to you, and now I get the dopamine hit of telling you, or you get telling me, whatever. Now we're all educated, right? So it's like, yay, we're so smart. That's the dopamine hit. We're so smart. Meanwhile, just like sort of making ourselves less smart. Because it's the dopamine hit is all you need. You don't actually need like good or salient or coherent information for that loop. And so, yeah, that's a problem. But, well, it is what it is. Why do I say it's ego-driven? Because the digital panopticon thrives, or at least in part thrives, on narcissism. So that's one reason. You could have a person who isn't really even that like egocentric, but the incentives will sort of push them in that direction where it wouldn't necessarily otherwise. So that's interesting. Yeah, stuffing human interactions to social media algorithms is again sort of messing artificially with our relevance realization as far as our like social connections, our data intake, all that stuff. That's not to say that we couldn't adapt to it, but essentially it's like the systems we're using, back to the medium as the message, are they are like smaller, they're more retarded than our actual natural systems. Our natural systems, like our natural relevance realization and data collection and all of this stuff, like so, all our social realizations, like it's way, way, way better. Like it's where we're trying to redesign ourselves, and we've done it. There's no way we can do it well. It's just not possible because we're not God. And like you want to recreate the human in like a computer. Okay, it's dumb. It's so dumb. The fact that even that we think we could do that is like the biggest ego trip. It's hilarious. So essentially, in trying to like in succumbing to this temporarily ego trip, we like end up retarding ourselves, literally, our minds. And then in the process, we have the option of succumbing to soul slavery or like an addiction. And the reason why it's soul slavery is because eventually our like relevance, realization, all this stuff gets so hijacked. It doesn't take that long, quite frankly. It's very quick. It gets so hijacked that our soul and our mission and our will no longer is ours. We can live our lives as humans, days, weeks, months, years, doing all sorts of things that we wouldn't do otherwise, saying all sorts of things we wouldn't say otherwise, spending time with people we wouldn't otherwise. So that's very interesting. Once the mind adjusts to this process, which has been carefully, deliberately, and lovingly constructed by social scientists, the mind becomes like a horse with blinders. There's a sort of deadening and not desensitization. Certain things go up, like anxiety will go up, but the blinders part was the word I was looking for. This is not the morning, you guys. This is not the morning. Oh, disassociation. Human minds become something like hosts for the messages they are fed, and their addiction propels them into that circle thing a horse walks around to create energy. Maybe I'll look that up at some point in my life. So yeah, this is a big problem, I think. I'm not doing anything to solve this. I'm just observing things that may or may not be correct. I don't know. So yeah, your time and attention are the most valuable things. If you want to outsource that, be aware that you may be selling your soul into slavery. And the reason it's slavery is because you ain't getting paid for it. And it's probably not doing you any good. So it's benefiting others and not yourself. And it's probably harming you because you're using your resources, which is your time, energy, and attention, your literal life force energy, your will, for the whims of literally any, not your own whims, let's just put it that way. And how dumb is that, to have your will co-opted, like not even by like a person, but like some dumb like computer program like that. That's just embarrassing, I don't know. Anyway, whatever. I'm gonna stop talking. Bye.